Good evening and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance, and coming up, a surprising pick for many, Republicans embracing Democrats pushing back. President-elect Trump announcing Congressman Matt Gaetz as his pick for Attorney General, why Trump chose him, and who Trump is naming to be Secretary of State, as well as the nation's top intel official. And Trump meeting with President Biden at the Oval Office, what they're promising as the nation prepares for the presidential transition. And Senate Republicans electing South Dakota Senator John Thune to be their next leader. We'll speak with former Illinois Congressman and presidential candidate Joe Walsh to assess.
This is Capitol Report, live from our global headquarters in our nation's capital. Here's Steve Lance.
And President-elect Donald Trump announcing his picks for the nation's top prosecutor, top diplomat, and top intel official all in the same day. It comes as he vows to reform the Justice Department at home and implement a peace through strength agenda abroad. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao, who is in West Palm Beach. Good evening, Iris. So what is the latest on Trump's transition back to the White House?
Good evening to you as well, Steve. Today, Trump came back to West Palm Beach after meeting with President Biden at the White House, and he also unveiled several key picks for important positions in his next administration, among which the nation's top prosecutor. Trump, in a largely unexpected move, chose Congressman Matt Gaetz as his pick for Attorney General. In a statement, Trump calls Gaetz a tenacious attorney, adding that Gaetz will end weaponized government. And Gaetz, 42, is among the most staunch supporters of Trump in Congress. He has strongly criticized the Justice Department for his probes into Trump and his treatment of whistleblowers.
And while we want to talk about the weaponization of the Justice Department, rightfully so, we write the check for it, and we underwrite the debt for it. And it is sickening to me.
Trump on Wednesday also named former Democratic Congresswoman and presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard as his pick for Director of National Intelligence. Trump says Gabbard has a fearless spirit and enjoys broad support in both parties. Gabbard, who joined the Republican Party this fall, has been campaigning for Trump in recent months.
They're incredible patriots who want to help save our incredible country. By the way, she just became a Republican.
Trump also officially picked Senator Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, calling him a fearless warrior who will never back down to our adversaries. Rubio is known for his hardline stances on the Chinese Communist Party and has been an outspoken critic of the CCP's human rights abuses. And in the coming days and weeks, Trump is also expected to announce picks for another key position on his administration, which, for example, will be the Treasury Secretary. Other positions also include the heads of Departments of Energy, Department of Transportation, and Department of Labor. Steve.
So, Iris, there's also more news coming out of Florida, where you are right now, about the classified documents case under Special Counsel Jack Smith. What's the update there?
So, Steve, this is breaking news. According to court documents filed on Wednesday, Special Counsel Jack Smith is asking an appeals court to pause his appeal against Trump in the case involving classified documents found at Trump's Mar-a-Lago here in West Palm Beach. Specifically, Trump's team is trying to dismiss that case. Meanwhile, Jack Smith request to stop his appeal. Also, he did the same thing actually last week in the D.C. election interference case. And all this development, meanwhile, comes amid reports that Special Counsel Jack Smith is planning to step down and end his federal prosecutions against Trump before Trump is set to take office and gets to fire him. Steve.
NTD's Iris Tao live in West Palm Beach. Thank you, Iris. And today, President Biden and President-elect Trump meeting at the Oval Office, speaking on national security and domestic policy. They promised a smooth transition of power despite political differences. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has more from the White House.
President Biden and President-elect Donald Trump had exchanged some good-hearted remarks in their first in-person meeting since June. They discussed offering a smooth transition of one administration to the next. Take a look.
Congratulations. We can make sure you're accommodated, what you need.
Politics is tough. And it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe.
You're welcome.
Biden and Trump continued their meeting behind closed doors. Biden's Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, and incoming Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, joined. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that the talks lasted 2 hours in the Oval Office.
They discussed important national security and domestic policy issues facing the nation and the world. President Biden also raised important items on Congress's to-do list for the lame duck session, including funding the government and providing the disaster supplemental funding the president requested.
President Biden is set to meet with world leaders, including China's Xi Jinping, this weekend at the APEC summit in Peru. At the White House press briefing, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan was asked about the biggest threat facing the U.S. Sullivan mentioned China in his answer and added that the incoming administration is clear on this.
The competition with the People's Republic of China is going to be defining for what the world looks like over the course of the next 10, 20, and 30 years. And so that has got to be a paramount priority for the incoming administration. And the person who's been named as my successor, the person who's been floated as the Secretary of State, these are people who have very much focused on that challenge. And
prior to this, Trump was up on Capitol Hill meeting with Republican lawmakers. Reporting from the White House, Jack Bradley, NTD News.
And joining me now is former Illinois Congressman and presidential candidate Joe Walsh. He's also the host of the podcast, The Social Contract with Joe Walsh. Former Congressman Joe Walsh, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, my friend.
It's great to have you. Now, President Biden meeting with President-elect Trump now just hours ago. Biden welcomed Trump back. I want to play a clip of that meeting and get your thoughts.
Politics is tough, and it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe.
Congressman, what's your reaction to that brief exchange?
Steve, probably a reaction most of our audience will disagree with me. Look, Joe Biden's a really decent man, and he's a great American. But I wish he hadn't met with President Trump today, and I hope he doesn't go to Donald Trump's inauguration. Look, I don't want to normalize who and what Donald Trump is. Kamala Harris rightly conceded, and Joe Biden accepted the results of the election. But Donald Trump has threatened to be a dictator. He thinks he's above the law. Look at some of his cabinet picks. I just don't want Joe Biden to normalize any of that.
Let me ask you earlier as well, the Senate voted for South Dakota Senator John Thune as the majority leader for the Republicans. Some Trump supporters were hoping for Florida Senator Rick Scott. What does Thune's election as majority leader mean for the Senate?
Well, thank God. I don't know what it says about Trump and MAGA because remember, it's a private vote. If this had been a public vote and every Republican in the Senate was on the public record, I don't think John Thune would have won because Donald Trump didn't want this pick. Trump's base didn't want this pick. They wanted Rick Scott. But because the vote was private, every senator all of a sudden, Steve, had courage, right? That's been the story of these past 8 or 9 years. All of these Republicans privately saying one thing, publicly doing another when it comes to Trump. Look, John Thune is a sane Republican. He's a good Republican who will do what's in the interest of the country. But make no mistake, he only won this slot because the vote was private.
I want to play some sound of what Thune had to say earlier.
We have a mandate from the American people, a mandate not only to clean up the mess left by the Biden-Harris-Schumer agenda, but also to deliver on President Trump's priorities.
How might Senator, now Majority Leader Thune, work with Republicans and Democrats to make progress in Congress?
Look, he's going to be in a really tough spot. And let's be real, Donald Trump won. And as Trump won, the entire Republican Party now is his. So I think he's going to face very little opposition, certainly not in the House. I think he'll face very little opposition in the Senate. John Thune, whose inclination is to do the right thing when it comes to support for Ukraine and other issues, is going to be pressured by Donald Trump, is going to be pressured by the MAGA base not to do the right thing. So Thune's in a real difficult spot, but it's Trump's party. And generally, I feel like Thune and everybody is going to have to fall in line.
Former Congressman Joe Walsh, thank you for joining.
Good to be with you, Steve.
And coming up, Senate Republicans electing their new leader, while Trump endorses Mike Johnson for a second term as Speaker of the House. That's as Republicans gain control of both chambers of Congress. Luis Martinez standing by for us on Capitol Hill. And are details of UFO phenomenon being withheld from Congress and the American people? It's one of the questions lawmakers asked at the second congressional meeting on this very topic. That and more when we return.
Emeril Lagasse here, and I'm so excited to tell you about my French door air fryer 360. Extra large 26-quart capacity. Cook with up to 70% less calories from fat than deep frying. That's a big deal, my friend. 360 degrees of superheated air gives you fast, even cooking. My 10-in-1 French door air fryer 360s grills, air fries, dehydrates, roasts, bakes, broils, proofs, slow cooks, and toasts. This baby does it all. These French doors are a game changer. Look at how easy that is.
Now find out how you can try Emeril Lagasse's French Door Air Fryer 360 with 3 cooking tiers, fetch tool, air frying rack, and drip tray in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Order now and you'll also get Emeril's Air Fryer Favorites recipe book. And we'll automatically upgrade you to our bonus cooking kit free. Plus, find out how you can get free shipping. This offer will not last, so call or click now to order.
You're gonna love it. I guarantee it.
We've been spending a lot more time than ever at home these days. So maybe now you've just noticed cold air coming in from a couple windows, or that your patio door isn't closing fully, which means you're losing heat in the winter, losing cooling in the summer, losing money all year long. And that means now is the time for new windows and patio doors from Renewal by Andersen. Most installations are usually done in just one day. Renewal by Andersen windows and doors can help lower your heating bills and air conditioning bills with their most energy efficient glass available. Only their windows are made with Fibrex material, proven to be 2 times stronger than vinyl, and they're backed by a 20-year warranty. And right now, when you buy one window or patio door, get one at 40% off. Plus, there's no money down, no payments for 12 months, and no interest for 12 months. Plus, an additional $200 off your entire purchase.
1-800-968-1443.
Shop the Mathis Design Studio for Black Friday savings on luxury designer furniture. Get factory authorized savings on all the top brands with heirloom quality pieces for every room in your house. Choose from our incredible in-stock selection, or let our complimentary design staff help you create a custom look to match your own personal style for less than you ever imagined. Get the lowest prices of the year through Black Friday at the Mathis Design Studio.
The Kindness is Cool Video Awards are back for their second year. Record and nominate acts of kindness, both big and small, from individuals, families, and communities. Submit your videos on ganjingworld.com with the hashtag KindnessIsCool. Win a $10,000 grand prize and be featured on a New York Times Square billboard. Visit ganjingworld.com and start sharing today. Kindness is cool.
And welcome back to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. The House and Senate Republicans holding leadership elections as they prepare for full control of Congress. Our Washington correspondent Louise Martinez joins us now from Capitol Hill with more. Louise, what can you tell us about the Senate Republican leadership elections?
Of course, Steve, yes, this morning inside of the old Senate chambers, not the ones that they use during normal sessions, but the original old Senate chamber in Capitol Hill, Senate Republican Conference gathered and had 2 rounds of votes for their new leadership. In the first round of votes, there were 3 candidates. That's Senator John Thune from South Dakota, John Cornyn from Texas, and Rick Scott from Florida. Rick Scott obtained 13 votes, Steve. That's only 3 more votes than he obtained in 2022 when he challenged Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And in that first round of votes, John Thune, senator from South Dakota, was short just 4 votes from winning. In the second round, John Thune defeated John Cornyn to be the next Senate Republican leader. This is the first new Senate Republican leader in 18 years. And also Senator John Barrasso will then replace John Thune as Senate Majority Whip. So let's listen to what Senator John Thune said briefly after being elected the new Senate Majority Leader for Republicans.
We will do everything we can to process his noms quickly, get them installed in their positions so they can begin to implement his agenda. We expect a level of cooperation from the Democrats to work.
Well, Steve, there what we heard from John Thune, one of his first words after being elected Senate Republican leader. He's referring to the recent appointments, something that former President Donald Trump, President-elect Trump, has requested of the Senate Republican leader that he should allow recent appointments to pass through his nominations for cabinet positions. So his first words were reassuring that despite the history that Senator John Thune and President-elect Trump have, he will support his nominees and help him through that process. Steve.
Louise, a lot of moving parts up there on Capitol Hill, which you actually are there. I think a lot of our viewers are used to seeing you at the Capitol, with the Capitol, or in the Rotunda, but you're outside of the Hyatt. Why are you there? What can you tell us about what's happening in the House?
That's right. I am at the Hill, just not the Capitol Hill. I'm at the Hyatt Regency in Capitol Hill, and that's because right behind me, the House Republican Conference just finished gathering for their elections for leadership for the 119th Congress. Steve, we saw that Speaker Mike Johnson, Majority Whip Tom Emmer, and Majority Leader Steve Scalise all were re-elected to their leadership positions for next year, for the next Congress. Lisa McClain was bumped from House Republican Secretary to House Republican Conference Chair, and Indiana Congresswoman Hochin was elected the new House Republican Secretary. Now let's listen to the words of Majority Leader Steve Scalise right after the House Republican elections here at the Hyatt Regency.
We're excited about this opportunity for the American people to go and fight to get those policies put in place now that will lower their food costs and lower their energy costs and secure the border, working with President Trump to deliver a better America. This new Republican majority, who was elected today unanimously by our members to be the Speaker of the House again, marshaling through this effort, is our Speaker today and our Speaker tomorrow, Mike Johnson.
Big day for congressional Republicans. We also have the news this Wednesday that House Republicans have secured the majority in the House after Kevin Calvert of California won his election. We've heard words of unity from Senate Republicans, from House Republicans, all saying that they want to see President-elect Trump's mandate be accomplished through congressional legislative processes. Steve, today also we had the news that President-elect Trump has nominated Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida. That would be the 3rd Florida congressional member picked for Trump's administration. Mixed reactions. I spoke with Steve Scalise, Majority Leader. He said Congressman Matt Gaetz was a great pick, but I also spoke with Congressman Max Miller from Ohio, and he said he couldn't wait to put some popcorn and watch Senate, the FBI, and the CIA go through Matt Gaetz's background all the way back to when he was 18 years old.
And Louise, at that very press conference behind you where the House Speaker was speaking, he was asked by the Epoch Times' Arjun Singh about the status of Matt Gaetz, and he did actually withdraw, resign from Congress, which leaves that seat open. But the Speaker did say that that was going to allow them to potentially get somebody to fill that seat by January 3rd when the new Congress takes place. He's working out those details with Governor DeSantis in Florida, from what I understand.
Yes, of course. Well, that's going to be very interesting because it's not only Congressman Matt Gaetz that's been tapped by President-elect Trump, but also Congressman Mike Waltz. And then also we have Senator Marco Rubio bid picked as Secretary of State. So those are positions that will need to be filled out. And in the case of House Republicans, it does slim their majority, and they will hope to have those special elections before new Congress comes into place in order to be able to keep the majority and be more comfortable with the voting processes forward.
Certainly a lot of talent, GOP talent coming out of Florida, including the president-elect. Luis Martinez, live from Capitol Hill. Thank you, Luis. Aliens and UFOs in focus at a hearing on Capitol Hill today. The Special Oversight Committee saying that the goal is to give greater attention to UFO phenomena and uncover new information. NTD correspondent Jason Blair reports.
UFO phenomena, aliens, and otherworldly technology were in the spotlight for a special oversight committee in Washington, D.C. This is the second congressional hearing on the topic, following one in July 2023. Representative Nancy Mace was the chair for the meeting.
UAPs remain a controversial topic. I'm not going to name names, but there are certain individuals who didn't want this hearing to happen because they feared what might be disclosed.
During the meeting, instead of UFO, it was preferred to use UAP, which stands for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. There were witnesses and testimonies from the military and civilian government, as well as people in the science and journalism communities.
UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies.
Unfortunately, there is a growing body of evidence that the U.S. government is not being transparent about what it knows about unidentified anomalous phenomena, and that elements within the military and the IC are in violation of their constitutional duty to notify Congress of their operations.
Some expressed concern for how difficult it is to openly talk about the subject.
Members of the NASA UAP Independent Study Team, particularly those in academia, were mocked and even threatened for simply having the temerity to engage in the study of UAP.
Another hot topic was demanding more transparency on how much taxpayer money is being spent on projects related to UAPs.
The reality is, despite their enormous taxpayer-funded budgets, the transparency of the Defense Department and the intelligence community have long been abysmal.
There was also concern regarding advanced technology being used by enemies against the U.S. or our allies. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
So what do everyday Americans think about UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs, or extraterrestrial life? NTD's Sam Wong was out on the National Mall to survey the folks.
So are you open to the possible existence of UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs?
Not really, no. I'm 73 years old and I haven't seen any evidence yet. It's like ghosts. I don't think they exist.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been so much proof since the 50s.
I think it's possible that they're out there. I don't think we're that special that we're the only ones on this universe.
I think it's possible. I think there's some planet out there that we don't know about where there's like special like organisms like living out there.
Oh, I am absolutely 100% positive they do. I think there's multiple different types of aliens out there. I'm very excited that the government is finally coming out and being a little more open about that thing.
I just don't believe that there's other life out there that's coming into our
our planet.
No, the Pentagon earlier this year, they released a report showing that there's no evidence of extraterrestrial sightings. So do you buy that?
No, there's just too much proof in other countries and everything else, whereas it's not so much censored out there.
I think there's a lot of things that come through our skies that we're not quite sure what they are, but don't necessarily believe that that would be extraterrestrial life.
No evidence for aliens?
Yeah.
I think they're hiding it from us so like we don't freak out and start like destroying stuff.
No. I don't think they tell us everything that they know. I think there's stuff hidden from us.
I mean, it seems like people see things all the time. People recount experiences of being abducted.
We traveled a lot growing up and was at New Mexico, and you can see strange lights in the sky that nobody can explain. So you know how planes kind of fly in an up or down direction? When you're out there, especially on real clear nights, you can see them where they'll go back and forth, and then they can go straight up. I've never seen any planes do that.
Do you think there's enough transparency surrounding this disclosure, the possible disclosure of alien sightings?
No. I think that there's a lot more technology that they have in advance that there's probably out there, and we're just not, as the people should not, or they find that we should not know about those kind of technologies.
And I would have to believe that it's probably more for national security type purposes, where we have potentially foreign adversaries putting some unidentified objects through our airspace.
And I don't think really people could handle it if it came out.
The possibility of, people coming from another planet here, I think probably would freak everybody out.
And coming up, Trump selects his former DNI chief, John Ratcliffe, to head the CIA. Former CIA officer Claire Lopez will share her insights on the choice and the current threat China poses to America's national security. Anger is mounting over Chinese officials' response to a deadly car attack. More on why the incident points to a bigger problem at play. That and more when we return.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call 800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now. 800-494-1562.
بیست و سه سال 16 سال عمري ما هفت
اما داعش کردیان برانبر خشک و دایکانی ازدی ما کاری که دور لهمو چمت دموکراسی و موافقانی مرو و انسانیت او بارودوخی که است های به تایبت لایرا خوشکوریا بشه که دگره تو با حالانه که اداره اوباما کرد
ریم بو او هفت روز بو و داعش از کرد تامبوم کرا قوتینیز گریا بما متشکر به هر پیدن نبو باوان رحم نبو قدامنا سوالان منخدران نزل باوان نوستم بس نه من گو بس نش پیشوش باش.
They would literally be auctioned in front of soldiers, and then the soldiers begin to bid.
زارود وان همو جیبرم چه حمله زارود دم واسه وان همو جیبرم
وحشیگری کی توا عیاره ظلمی که یک جار زور گوره لما افرطانه کرا و تعدایی که زور زوریان لیده که اما نه روزانه دست فروشی ده
اليوم التوزيع كل الرصيد.
Imagine being a child, having a child mentality, and these evil people come and wheel you away from the only safety you've ever known.
And welcome back to the Capitol Report. I'm Steve Lance. President Biden is set to meet with the head of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, on Saturday during an international summit in Peru. The meeting comes as Beijing prepares for Trump's return to the White House. A senior Biden administration official confirming the plans for a meeting. It will take place during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Lima. This is just over 2 months before Trump's inauguration. The official did not say how Biden and his advisors would respond to questions from the regime's leaders about the incoming Trump administration. So what can we expect from new CIA leadership as John Ratcliffe steps in next year? And should we be more concerned about the thousands of men crossing the U.S. border illegally? I spoke with former CIA officer Claire Lopez to get her thoughts. Claire Lopez, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be with you.
It's great to have you on with us, Claire. Obviously, you worked in the CIA before. Talk to us about former President Trump, now President-elect Trump's recent appointment of John Ratcliffe as the CIA director. How does the rank and file look at the new incoming person, and what are your personal feelings on this?
You know, I have no feel for inside right now. I've been out of service for 24 years, but given that John Ratcliffe formerly was the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence overall, and of course the agency was part of that, I think he's a terrific choice, and hopefully, you know, that he'll be received that way, and I'm hopeful for him steering the agency in the right direction and perhaps a little away from all this DEI stuff that we've seen lately.
To your point, you know, John Ratcliffe, he's also been very critical and sounding the alarms, if you will, of China and calling them our greatest threat, our greatest adversary. How do you think that John Ratcliffe in the CIA might impact U.S.-China relations?
Well, I don't think it's a matter so much of impacting U.S.-China relations as it is the job of the agency is intelligence collection, analysis, and reporting, right? So the job will be a professional to develop and encourage and launch a professional cadre that can accomplish good intelligence reporting on China, on its military, on its space capabilities, on its biological warfare program, all of its new, militarization in particular, as well as things like leadership of the CCP, of the PLA, that's People's Liberation Army, Chinese Communist Party.
Claire, lastly, I want to get your thoughts about the U.S. southern border and China. We've seen a lot of reports over the past few months with a lot of what we call military-aged Chinese men coming through. I think there's a lot of people that are skeptical that, you know, could be casting labels or, stereotypes and things like that. Help us connect the dots as to why this might not be as friendly as, say, your average illegal crossing.
No, absolutely. I have written about this, by the way, I have a blog site at Newsmax, and I've written about this multiple times. These Chinese men, young, military age, looking fit, have been observed all the way from the Darien Gap on up through Central America and across our own borders. And I don't mean through the ports of entry, the official ports of entry. Where these guys are entering is in between the ports of entry, where many of our CBP, Custom Border Protection agents, have been pulled off the great big stretches, let's say Texas, between ports of entry to staff the ports themselves and do paperwork and hand out baby bottles. And so those wide open spaces in between the ports of entry is where many of these Chinese are expected to have been seen coming through. But all the way down as far south as the Darien Gap, which is that jungle, rugged area that lies between the northern tip of South America, Colombia, and Panama, the southernmost country of Central America. And coming through there, reporters like Michael Yan, for example, have been down in that area. They've been on the Panamanian side. They've talked to the villagers on the Panamanian side, and they're told, and they see, and he himself sees for himself these Chinese men coming through by the hundreds, and those great big white buses waiting for them to carry them al norte. They were killing chickens and then drinking shots of their blood. It's kind of gross, but we didn't know what that was. Michael didn't know what that was, so he asked our mutual good friend, Chinese virologist Li Mengyan, who, as we know, came out of Hong Kong back in 2020.
Whistleblower.
Well, whistleblower about the Chinese Communist Party's biological weapons program. And she said, oh, yes, back in 2013, Xi Jinping established a new battalion, Special Operations Battalion 75 of the People's Liberation Army. And they were special operations, similar in a way to our Delta Forces, or Rangers or SEALs. And their nickname is called the Jungle Tigers in English. And their signature training ritual is this thing with the chickens and drinking their blood. And she knew that, and she told us about it. So that's how we identify them, at least, as jungle tigers. But there may be others in the flow as well. But what we do know is that thousands have come through, and they're in the country right now.
Unbelievable. Claire Lopez, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much.
And you can catch the rest of our conversation with former CIA officer Claire Lopez tomorrow, where we'll cover her assessment of the Russia-Ukraine war and explore why increased cooperation among our adversaries poses a concern to U.S. national security. And anger is mounting over Chinese authorities' handling of a fatal car attack that killed 35 people. Officials cleared flowers for the dead, and censors removed posts about that incident. Officials are taking out the old playbook, playing down disasters and making it seem like nothing happened. And a warning, some viewers may find the following footage disturbing.
No news conference, scrubbing online posts about the attack, and almost a day to announce the death toll. This has been Chinese authorities' response to a fatal car accident. A man drove a car into a crowd Monday, killing 35 and injuring over 40 people. NTD can't independently verify that number, as Beijing has a record of covering up death tolls. There's little coverage of the incident by state media. Some people took to the internet to criticize authorities' response and question what the attack means for Chinese society. China's censors were quick to remove those posts. Candles and flowers had been laid at the gate of the accident site. A Reuters reporter on the scene said the flowers were removed overnight. Security guards took over the wet side of the gate, blocking the site with metal barriers. Still, many kept dropping off fresh flowers.
It was just a spontaneous feeling that I had when I came to lay the flowers. Even though I didn't know them personally, it felt like those times when I had family members pass away in the past. So I kind of understand that feeling, and this is my feeling.
Local police have arrested the suspect, a 62-year-old who tried to stab himself following the attack. He's in the hospital now. Investigators say it seems he drove into the crowd out of anger over his divorce. This isn't a standalone incident. Another driver rammed into a crowd last year in a BMW, killing at least 6 people. Earlier this year, a Japanese schoolboy was stabbed on his way to school, and 4 American college instructors were stabbed in a park in northeastern China. Sheng Xue is a Chinese-Canadian journalist. She said the incident points to a bigger problem in society.
Similar incidents will erupt as the economy keeps going down. More and more people are growing desperate about their future. Plus, they might have encountered troubles in life, work, and in society, all while living under an extremely cruel authoritarian rule.
She added this forms a negative cycle, as some would vent their anger and grievance on other innocent citizens or those who are weaker than themselves.
Coming up, Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, former governor, could be the next U.S. ambassador to Israel. If confirmed, how will Huckabee affect Trump's policy on Israel? We'll speak with former Deputy National Security Advisor in Israel, Chuck Freilich. And the Ukraine war is among the major threats to global security as Trump returns to office, with the State Department racing to allocate more aid to Ukraine. That and more when we return.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them.
Like I grew up in poverty, and I actually became physically homeless right after I had turned 16.
I didn't have anywhere to sleep, and I didn't really have friends or family that could support me.
To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference: Covenant House.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis and giving them the support and tools they need to succeed in life.
Without the Covenant House, I honestly could not tell you where I would be today.
Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
I would not be here today if it weren't for the kindness of strangers, people who donated to Covenant House so that they could support me when I couldn't support myself.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations.
Your support makes the work of Covenant House possible.
Call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month.
Will radical lies determine your child's future, or will timeless truths? Fathom the Good equips children with wisdom against the world. Our homeschool curriculum teaches high schoolers to think critically. We provide primary texts, original content, reasoning tools, and mentoring videos to help them transform America. Teach your children to navigate the world's woke confusion. Teach them to fathom the good.
And welcome back to the Capitol Report. A U.S. government employee has been charged with leaking classified information on Israel's retaliatory plan against Iran. The suspect, identified as Asif William Rahman, was arrested in Cambodia this week by the FBI. Rahman was charged with 2 counts of willful transmission of national defense information, which could put him behind bars for years if he's found guilty. Officials said he had top secret security clearance, but didn't announce which federal agency he works for. Rahman is slated to make his first court appearance in Guam. So how will Trump's nomination of former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee as ambassador to Israel affect Trump's policy on Israel? Joining me now to discuss his nomination is Chuck Freilich, former Deputy National Security Advisor in Israel and longtime senior fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School. Chuck Freilich, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Chuck, you were a former Deputy National Security Advisor in Israel. What do you think of former President, now President-elect Trump's nomination of Governor Mike Huckabee as his next U.S. ambassador to Israel?
Well, obviously, former governor is a man of considerable achievement in life. He's taken some extreme positions in the past, and it's questionable to what extent he still holds them today or intends to actually try and implement them now that he's been appointed ambassador. Policy, of course, is set in Washington for the most part, and ambassadors don't usually have much impact on that. So we'll see where it goes.
Chuck, what are some of those positions that have you somewhat concerned?
Well, I mean, he's supports Israeli annexation of the West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria for him. He claims that there is no such thing as West Bank. That there may be some justification for, because it was a term that the Jordanians came up with after they annexed the West Bank in 1949. But if we get past the terminology, the question is what the long-term solution to the whole West Bank or Judea-Samaria question is for Israel and for the Palestinians. If one supports a two-state solution, then obviously annexation is totally conflictual with that. And even if I, for example, tend to be doubtful that we can still achieve the classic version of a two-state solution, but if we want to see some future peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians, some separation between them, annexation isn't the way to go.
So I do want to play something that, as you mentioned, former Governor Mike Huckabee said, which may or may not motivate his approach and how he'll handle his new position.
A nation's relationship to Israel is not political. It's biblical. And I don't believe God ever breaks a covenant that he makes.
Given this, Huckabee now says that he does oppose a two-state solution. How will he, under the Trump administration, influence the political dynamics in the Middle East, particularly to your concern about the West Bank?
Some ambassadors do have influence, especially if they're close to the president, influence in the sense of setting policy. Look, this goes beyond just the issue of an Israeli-Palestinian settlement. How this issue is dealt with will affect Israel's relations with the entire Arab world, with Iran. It can feed into the tensions in the region today. And in any event, I don't think it's helpful for an ambassador to be as outspoken in this area as he has been, unless he knows that he's reflecting the new president's policies. And if that's the way that Trump intends to go, well, there will certainly be a lot of people in Israel and the United States who will support that. I think many will not. And I don't know that it's going to be a helpful approach towards reaching a settlement.
Now, there is a renewed effort for full extension of Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank. What would that look like, and how would it impact both Israelis and Palestinians?
Well, the first impact, if it's adopted, is that it is the end of a two-state solution. And for Israel, that means being in control, permanent control, of 3 million Palestinians who share nothing of our national aspirations, and it would threaten Israel's demographic character. The idea of a Jewish state. Now, no one ever said that the Jewish state has to be 100% Jewish, and it isn't today either. It would be, today it's already 80-20, and the 20% being just about all Muslim. Here, Israel would overnight become 60-40, and within a number of years probably become 50-50, and that's hardly, even 60-40 isn't a Jewish state to my way of thinking. That's not what Israel was established to be. For the Palestinians, it's of course the end to their national aspirations. It means ongoing conflict for both sides for God knows how long. And again, it puts Israel in conflict with most of the Arab and Muslim world and will prevent seem to be very imminent prospects before the war broke out for a breakthrough between Israel and the Saudis. Saudi Arabia, the keeper of the holy places, the heart of Islam, both Sunni and Shia Islam. That there was a chance for a really major breakthrough there. That won't happen if this actually takes place.
Chuck Freilich, former Israeli Deputy National Security Advisor. Really appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the White House today saying the Ukraine war is among the major threats to global security as President-elect Trump returns to office. This comes as the State Department keeps racing to allocate more aid to Ukraine. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the latest, starting with an attack on Kyiv.
Russia on Wednesday launching its first missile attack on Kyiv since August. That's according to Ukrainian officials who say the attack involved strategic bombers and ballistic missiles. Elderly women and small children taking shelter in an underground metro station.
The Kyiv region is always suffering. Kids can't go to school when drones are flying. And when there are missile attacks, we are seeking shelter.
The scale of the strikes and extent of any damage were not immediately clear. No casualties have been reported so far. And in D.C. on Wednesday, President-elect Trump met with President Biden. After the meeting, the White House suggested Trump should consider the Russia-Ukraine conflict to be one of the most serious global security threats as he returns to office.
You have an ongoing war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine, representing a larger threat to European security and therefore global security.
The White House also defended the aid it has sent to Ukraine, saying the U.S. also profits from it.
These aren't just dollars that we're picking up and shipping over to another country. They're dollars we're investing here in the United States in American jobs, producing American weapons that we send to Ukraine.
This comes as Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in Brussels on Wednesday to make sure Ukraine continues receiving aid from the U.S. Blinken says aiding Ukraine could have two possible outcomes.
Ensuring that Ukraine has the money, the munitions, and the mobilized forces to fight effectively in 2025, or to be able to negotiate a peace from a position of strength.
He added that the Biden administration will make sure to send all Ukraine aid allocated by Congress before January 20th. The White House previously said the same thing after President-elect Trump suggested he'll limit Ukraine aid once returning to office.
Every dollar we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door.
Also on Wednesday, Ukraine's Prime Minister announced that the country received a $1.3 billion grant from the U.S., saying that Ukraine will direct these funds toward essential humanitarian and social programs. Blinken also pledged that the U.S. will continue to provide artillery, air defense, armored vehicles, and other needed capabilities and munitions to Ukraine. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
And a report highlights transnational repression by the Hong Kong government with a particular focus on digital rights. Recent laws in the region have severely restricted Hong Kongers with an impact that reaches far beyond its borders. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has more from London.
Digital communications have played a key part of the Hong Kong pro-democracy movement, notably to share information between activists during the 2019 protests. But as human rights have declined in the region, so too has freedom of speech declined online, even going so far as arrests for simple Facebook posts made while Hong Kongers were abroad. A report published by Hong Kong Watch, titled Invisible Decline, looked at the impact of transnational repression and threats to digital rights. Hong Kong Watch co-founder Benedict Rogers said people are extremely cautious about what they post online.
As we know, the crackdown in Hong Kong has dismantled pretty much all of Hong Kong's freedoms, but what we don't hear enough about is the impact on digital rights. And basically the crackdown on in the digital space is very serious indeed.
23-year-old student Mika Yuan Qingting was arrested after returning to Hong Kong from studying in Japan. During her time in Japan, she made a number of social media posts which the Hong Kong police force described as inciting Hong Kong independence. She was prosecuted under the 2020 national security law and sentenced to 2 months in prison. The report said Yuen's case sent shockwaves and led many people to close social media accounts and self-censor for fear of repercussions, and not just for themselves.
There's a real risk that if somebody who's outside Hong Kong puts something in the digital sphere that the authorities don't like, that can have repercussions for their family members back home who may experience harassment, intimidation, or worse.
There have also been rulings that impact international digital companies. The Hong Kong Justice Department banned the popular pro-democracy anthem Glory to Hong Kong. Following a legal battle, in May this year the song was removed from streaming platforms Spotify and Apple Music. Not just in Hong Kong, but everywhere across the world, despite the song only being banned in Hong Kong. These are 2 examples, but they highlight how the ability to peacefully criticize the Hong Kong government has been repressed on a transnational level. The report makes policy recommendations.
One of the major recommendations is to hold the technology companies accountable, so where they do comply or cave into pressure to restrict digital rights.
He said companies should be called into Parliament in the UK, Congress in the US, or other similar institutions in other nations so that the companies explain themselves to governments. Rogers added that targeted sanctions should be imposed on Hong Kong officials who infringe upon the freedoms of Hong Kongers. And the report also recommends to improve social media safeguards to ensure these platforms are not used for transnational repression. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
And that is all we have for you this evening on the Capitol Report. For round-the-clock original coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live and download our NTD mobile app. From the nation's capital, I'm Steve Lance. Have a nice evening. See you back here tomorrow.